Welcome to Ask Richard. Today's question is by Tom Blake, and then he says, thanks for showing up and sharing these teachings. I want to know how to improve my perspective in life. I know from a logical point of view, but what practices do you find work best to stop being caught in drama of life? I think that's a really great question because I've been guilty of this in the past. Seeking knowledge is something that comes easy to me, and I want to learn and I want to gain new knowledge. But embodying that knowledge requires experience, and it requires us to practice, and it requires us to put down the computers, put down the notepad, and begin to live the new ways of being. Now the drama, we're all caught in drama, and how to get perspective on that. And I can only tell you from my point of view, but my point of view is about changing my state regularly. And so we can be caught up in our mind very, very often. We can be caught up in our thoughts, in our internal narratives, in our inner critic. And so how do we come away from that? How do we stop being in the drama and get perspective on our life? And so for me, and Anna as well, of course, we do this together. It's about changing our state and entering into non-ordinary states of consciousness. So the practice of entering into different states. And so that could be flow, that could be various other different states. And not just accessing them, but planning them. So on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and further out. Just to know that we can connect to that bigger perspective, that bigger point. So an example of a daily practice for me would be breath work, would be a strong breathwork practice every morning. So my energy breathwork practice, which you can find below, and then entering into a different state. And what that does for me, the breath begins to liberate energy within my body, and it leaves me in a state of bliss, in a state of absolute bliss and calm. And so what that does is then I can start my day from that point. I'm not carrying over anything from the day before. I can greet my family with as much love as possible and as much presence as possible. Now on a weekly basis, I enter in a very deep practice of breathing in the evenings, but I also include cold water swimming. I include movement, embodied movement, that I'm not doing something for calorie burn or for what I look like. I'm doing something for the feel of it. How does it make me feel? And I mentioned cold water swimming because that to me is a surrender. It's a surrender experience. It's not a bravado at all. It's about getting into the cold water with no wetsuit and surrendering to the moment. How that translates to my life is I can let go of that drama more easily. Of course, I still have it and I am susceptible to it. Of course, I'm a human being. But the idea that I can begin to let go. And that's what it is, a practice of dying, a practice of letting go more and more. It'd be interesting to know, Tom, what you mean by drama with your life. I can only say for mine, but the idea of, caught up in attachments, caught up in plans that I expect to happen that of course change within life. And so how do I tackle sudden change? How do I tackle things that go wrong, that I perceive go wrong? And that's a very visceral, physical nature for me. So how do I let go that gripping feeling in my body? Then that's how I feel it. If something irritates me, it's a gripping in my body. So for me, I take myself away from the focus of what's happened, and I bring that awareness of what's happening inside of me. When I do that, more and more often, I can begin to soften and let go, and all of a sudden, what's happened doesn't feel so significant anymore, and I can look at it through more of a balanced perspective. Without being that awareness, of course we're going to get caught up in drama because we're not aware of the understanding of what's influencing our thoughts and feelings. I hope that's answered the question. Changing our state is something that I believe we all need to do more and more often. Come away from our stories, come away from our minds, come away from our narratives, and begin to see life, get a connection to something else. I suppose what I didn't mention about those different states, particularly in the deeper non-ordinary states, whether you want to call them psychedelic or just deep non-ordinary states, they offer us perspectives of a connection to something bigger. Now that could be just looking at the Milky Way, at a sky that isn't interrupted by light pollution, and you get to see the vastness of what's above us, the vastness of the stars, the vastness of the picture that we're really part of. And it could be so many other different methods. And that connection to something more is what helps me not only shift my perspective, but maintain a bigger perspective more often than not. And right now, I believe we need that. All of us are needed to do that more and more now. There's no time in waiting. There's no time left, really. The world is in dire straits and we all need to make changes. If we're focused on our stuff and our individual needs, which of course they need to be answered to a degree, we need to come out to more of a collective perspective. And how to do that is through connecting to a non-ordinary state. If you haven't seen it already, I've done a video on that with Jamie Wheal. It's called Wake Up, Show Up and Grow Up, Ecstatic States of Consciousness, and you can find that link below. And an introduction really, if you're not aware of this or you are governed by certain taboos with regards to non-ordinary states, I encourage you to watch that video and to check out Jamie Wheal particularly. There are many people doing this, but I love the way he sets it out. So thank you for that question, Tom. Thank you as always. And if anyone of you's got a question, please comment on social media and make sure you hashtag Ask Richard. So have a wonderful week and I'll see you on another video soon.